United States President Donald Trump recently announced a series of reciprocal tariffs, signaling a major shift in American trade policy. This move replaces the multilateral approach that guided United States strategy for decades with a bilateral model focused on country-by-country negotiations. While these tariffs are presented as directly proportional to the barriers other countries allegedly impose on US goods, they actually are based on a widely criticized formula. This formula has produced a wide range of tariffs, from 10% to 50%. Many of these rates are repeatedly revised, often for reasons unrelated to the bilateral trade balance. This approach hits the world's least developed countries particularly hard. Consider Lesotho. For decades, successive United States administrations helped the country develop an export-oriented apparel industry through the African Growth and Opportunity Act, creating roughly 40,000 jobs. In 2024, Lesotho exported $237 million worth of goods to the US, but imported only $2.8 million in return, largely due to its landlocked status. Under the current administration's agenda, this translates into some of the steepest tariffs imposed on any nation. Although an initial 50% tariff was later reduced to 15%, and it remains a serious threat to Lesotho's economy. This regime doesn't just undermine World Trade Organization rules, it strikes at the heart of the multilateral trade system. Across the continent, economies are in the crosshairs. The United States delayed full implementation of these tariffs until August 7th to allow for bilateral negotiations, a move that further signals a global shift toward ad hoc bilateralism. Already, 75 countries have reportedly approached the administration to strike their own deals. A prime example is the Economic Prosperity Bill between the US and the UK. However, critics note that this limited tariff quota deal fails to substantially liberalize all trade, violating both GATT Article 24 and the most favored nation principle. Similar bilateral agreements have been reached with Vietnam, the Philippines, and Japan, with adjusting tariffs ranging from 15 to 20%. So far, no African country has secured such a deal. Zimbabwe was the first to respond, perhaps prematurely, by suspending all tariffs on US imports in a show of goodwill. Meanwhile, major economies like Kenya and South Africa are still struggling to secure favorable terms amid mounting domestic pressure. Regardless of the outcome, the US has clearly shifted to a transactional strategy. They are offering selective tariff relief in exchange for specific concessions or access to strategic resources like critical minerals. This take it or leave it bargaining leaves developing countries with little room to maneuver. Without the protection of the World Trade Organization, African nations could be pressured into exploitative agreements targeting strategic sectors such as raw materials, areas where Africa holds significant leverage but often fails to use it effectively. To prevent this, African countries must form a united front. By bargaining collectively, governments could leverage their strategic assets to protect the continent's economic interests. This includes pushing for exemptions for textiles, coffee, and minerals such as cobalt and lithium. Long-term resilience will require opening new export markets, strengthening South-South cooperation, and deepening regional integration through the AfCFTA. Africa cannot afford to be a passive observer. Through coordinated strategic action and assertive diplomacy, its government can help shape a fairer, and more equitable global trading order.